We welcome you to USA Ultimate's 2017 College National Championships. We are in Franklin, Ohio at Bishop Fenwick High School. Semifinal Sunday begins with British Columbia and Dartmouth in the women's division. It has already been a weekend full of surprises, as we've grown accustomed to at Nationals. You look at the women's bracket, quarterfinals were held this morning, and the 2-seed Dartmouth surpassed the national champs and tournament favorite Stanford, the 1 and the 2 meeting in the quarterfinals. That's kind of unusual, but it's Dartmouth facing British Columbia, who got past UVA, and here we go. Our Nationals coverage begins with Ian Toner. I am Evan Lepler. It is great to have you with us. A Dartmouth team, Ian, that had 3 of their top players in the club national title game last year, and a British Columbia team that is the only remaining undefeated team in the women's field.
You can't question Dartmouth's top-end experience. Girls with experience on Riot, Brute Squad, big pressure situations. British Columbia, on the other hand, a lot of young athletic talent coming on the field today.
And they've got chemistry. The Thunderbirds do. They've played together for a long time. Candace Chan, Catherine Huey, both have impressive playing pedigrees. And this UBC team took a big lead in the quarter against UVA before rallying back behind Ellen Young.
David Allison's team couldn't quite muster the comeback that they wanted, but Ellen Young, one of the great athletic talents, a bunch of junior worlds experience. She's going to be a force to be reckoned with on the field for the Thunderbirds today.
She's very versatile, can throw, can receive. This is a deep British Columbia team, and one of the questions is, does Dartmouth have the depth to match up? Certainly the superstars at the top stand out when you talk about Princess Leia.
When you look at Dartmouth, you talk about Jacqueline Verjou, you talk about Juliana Werfele, but you also have to talk about Angela Zhu. She's the team's Callahan nominee this year, the main distributor, the field general and quarterback on the offense. Expect her to be directing traffic and directing her team on the field.
And she has played her best in the most clutch situations in the past. Won 2 straight club national titles. Now she's trying to lead the Dartmouth women to a college title. It's Dartmouth and British Columbia, the first of our 4 semifinals here from Southern Ohio. We got a great day of Ultimate ahead. Stay with us. The USA Ultimate College Championships are brought to you in part by Discraft Ultrastar. Find the official disc of USA Ultimate at more than 1,900 U.S. retail locations. And by 5 Ultimate, apparel made specifically for Ultimate players by Ultimate players. Visit 5ultimate.com for everything from jerseys and shorts to custom team uniforms. Starting lineups for British Columbia: Zhang Harper, Leung, and Laurel Oldershaw, the grad student who's been very effective cutting for UBC this weekend, with Johnson, Esther Au, and the dangerous Janelle Siwa in the handling core, Chan and Huey. The coaches for UBC back in the semis for the first time since 2015. Dartmouth making its first ever appearance in the women's Final Four with Piper Curtis, Abby Ritterband, Ella Zenitis, Jacqueline Verjou, Juliana Werfele, Angela Zhu, and Lily Eisner. Eugene Yum and Laura Bitterman leading this Dartmouth team. And in the big 3 are who we talk about, but Eisner and Curtis in particular have really contributed. We may see some thunderstorms later today, but we've been hearing that since Friday, and so far it has been gorgeous. So hopefully Mother Nature will bless us with continued fine weather. And if this is your first time seeing Ultimate, you are in for a treat. 7-on-7, game is to 15. If the game runs long, it could be a little shorter than that, but we'll get to that when we arrive. Halftime is at 8. Obviously, you can throw the disc in any direction. You set a pivot foot once you catch it, and while there are 4 observers, the game is primarily self-officiated, the players making their own calls on the field. Ian Toner, your early expectations for this first semifinal are?
Coming into this morning, as we talked about earlier, we saw the matchup that we thought might be a finals matchup, Dartmouth versus Stanford. And I really thought Stanford was the favorite coming into that game. the way that Jacqueline Verjus, Angela Zhu, and the rest of the Dartmouth roster played, if they can replicate that performance and that intensity here, I'm going to expect to see Dartmouth advancing to the finals.
The plastic in the air, and we are underway, and the first throw is a turnover. This Dartmouth team got off to a great start on defense against Stanford Superfly. And while it was Werfele and Zhu around the disc initially, it's Verjus who does such incredible damage downfield.
Great to see that Verjus-Young matchup right off the bat.
I have not seen a calmer handler with the disc than Angela Zhu in the women's division this weekend. And into the end zone, it's Curtis for the score. The break in less than a minute will be nullified perhaps by a pick. So the disc looks like it's coming back. There's a reason Curtis was so open. Back to Werfele.
Yes, Dartmouth.
And the underneath D from Naomi Morsilla. Morsilla taking off. What a shot, and just out of her reach.
That's the athleticism that we've been talking about and that we've been seeing all weekend long from these Thunderbirds.
That's the type of effort you can expect to see. The passion that these players have put into not just this weekend and not just this season, but years of dreaming about this moment. And you felt that over at the other complex this morning, about 20 minutes away from here. The quarterfinals were held at 8 and 8:30 as Verjus sends it long. And over the head of Ritterband. So that's 2 turnovers apiece on this opening point.
Interesting to note that the wind is gusting from right to left on your screen here. So that huck from Verjus was going upwind.
There was a pretty substantial breeze. We were down on the field before the game. Can UBC hold? Yes! It's Joanna Lowe in the end zone for the Thunderbirds. 1-0 UBC.
Julia Zhang, a sophomore at British Columbia, has some Team Canada Junior Worlds experience, having competed last summer representing her country.
Looked like Verjus had it, and it snuck right past her.
And Verjus might have gotten a hand on that throw to the end zone as well.
She's been a block machine, and that one, fortunately for the Thunderbirds, finds its target.
Well, credit to Lowe for releasing that disc with enough snap and enough spin and velocity that it was able to continue on its flight path.
UBC, the Northwest Regional champs. First time in a long time they surpassed both Oregon and Washington to win that region. It's worth mentioning early in the game, these two teams met once earlier this season. It was way back in early March at Stanford, and Dartmouth rolled 13-5 over UBC on that particular day.
Yeah, I spoke to coaches Candace Chan and Catherine Hui before the game, and they definitely regret that they did not give Dartmouth their best game in that performance. And they mentioned that every single player on this roster is hungry to avenge that coming into this matchup.
Zhu looking for Verjus. Just shy of the end zone, but a spectacular grab. And Verjus to Curtis. Turnover-free response from Princess Leia.
I don't think there are any other women in the college division, right in the women's college division at this moment, who have that kind of connection and playmaking ability that Verjus and Zhu do together. That's a slightly high stall situation, a trust throw to the back shoulder, Not many throwers have the same precision as Zhu, able to put just enough touch on it and let that downwind gust carry it. And the phenomenal grab by Verju speaks for itself, but we're used to seeing one or two of those from her every game.
Well, Verju is currently the tournament's leading goal scorer. And she's also in the top 15 in assists. That's her 15th assist of the tournament. And Piper Curtis, a name that maybe not that many college ultimate fans knew about. You see the numbers for the weekend. She has always been open.
She's been, you know, I think a lot of people who focus on and report on the Dartmouth team focus on the top three, and rightfully so,
Sure.
of Verju, Zhu, and Werfele. But Piper Curtis is making a name for herself and really shoring up the depth of their top team.
Back on offense. Janelle Siwa picks up. Zhang looking deep. Oh, Young near the sideline. It was very close to being out of bounds and perhaps a call.
I think Oh Young is calling a foul on Zhu, claiming that she may have impacted her hand.
Caitman 40, Daniel Wong, Stephen Wong, and Jason Conrad, the observers. No foul is the call. It's a turnover, and Zhu will have it.
There's no foul on the play.
Jacqueline Verju leading the tournament in goals. Angela Zhu, third in the tournament in assists, behind UCLA's Han Chen and Katie Siaglo. And Verju with a rare error.
A really tough situation for Zhu to be in there as the Thunderbirds turn it right back on her own goal line at the front cone, going upwind.
This is Samantha Mew. She'll let one rip. And it's knocked away. Naomi Morsilla denying Dartmouth's deep threat.
We haven't seen many women register blocks on Verju this weekend, but phenomenal field awareness and recognition by Morsilla, fighting to get body position as soon as that disc went up.
And the disc a little hot for Morsilla there. Through her grasp. Zhu will reset. What do you see from this initial formation off the turnover from Dartmouth?
Well, it's the offense that's in vogue around every division these days. It's a center, it's your classic center stack, and you saw there as Dartmouth picked up the disc, UBC was kind of taking advantage of that and putting some poaches in both lanes.
Verju on the fake may have knocked Morsilla in the jaw. Certainly Jacqueline, growing up in Seattle, has competed against World's Best for a long time. Now, odds are you've seen Verju before, but if you haven't, you should understand she's one of the top young women's ultimate prospects in the sport in a long time. I mean, they've already been trying to put into context what her future might be.
She's been in a couple club national championship games. Her team's come up short the last 2 years.
Zhu rips it. Zhu versus Oh Young, and it flies over both of them. Verju, 20 years old. Deep and grabbing traffic by Julia Zhang. UBC moves the disc quickly. Too far for Esther Au.
That disc actually went out of bounds much closer to midfield. It's tough throwing it downwind when you release it with a slight inside-out edge. That's going to carry off to that flick sideline and go out of bounds.
Angela Zhu keeps it alive. And there was some contact near the disc.
Seems to be some confusion whether or not there was a foul or pick call.
No call.
No hard feelings, it appears. Zhu, Dartmouth's Callahan nominee. Verju on the second effort keeps it alive. And into the end zone for the game's first break. It's Caitlin Lee, the Denver native for Dartmouth.
When in doubt, put up a shot to Verju wherever she is on the field. High stall situation for Angela Zhu. She just happens to get a look at where Verju is on the field. You can't fault Naomi Morsilla for her body positioning. She's got to protect the house and be on her back hip there.
I'm not sure we've ever seen a safety valve like Verju in college women's ultimate. I mean, you look back to last year, Courtney Gegg, a great presence for Stanford. There have been other tall and capable threats downfield that you can launch to in desperation, but Verju all weekend long, we've seen it at all different levels for the past couple of years.
And she, to kind of compare some of the examples that you just brought up, she got the better of Courtney Gegg in the quarterfinals this morning.
Dartmouth 3-1 in pool play. The shocker was the 15-10 loss against Oregon yesterday, but they clobbered Notre Dame and then surpassing Stanford after a win yesterday in the pre-quarters. Dartmouth, of course, had to play the pre-quarters because they lost to Oregon, didn't win their pool. And another early error for UBC opens the door. It's just been a wild tournament, Ian. You see what happens in the quarterfinals. Oregon wins their pool, goes down to Colorado. Colorado's only loss in pool play was to Stanford. Went through their pool undefeated, but falls to this Dartmouth team in the first round today. And another stoppage. And bodies continue to tumble downfield.
Looked like Lily Eisner may have called contact on the mark at least once or twice there. And again,
and you got Oldershaw tumbling over Hardebeck. Thankfully, both came up smiling. Great diving grab. Lee on the doorstep. And with Verju on the sideline, not the same type of safety valve. She's taking this point off. And Curtis turns it over near the end zone.
outstanding grab on the goal line by Caitlin Lee. Unfortunate that she couldn't get her first point of contact into the end zone there.
Oldershaw. Oh Young. Floating this one deep for Al. And it's easily defended. Maggie Pizzo with the D. You know, watching the Stanford-Dartmouth game this morning, Ian, it felt like Dartmouth would always try to have two of the three of Werfele, Zhu, and Verju on the field, picking their spots for rest. And there's Werfele. shaking free of her defender, Paige Muir. Another break for Princess Layout.
Such a small window to squeeze that upline throw into. Her dump defender was shadowing her quite well. As we see Eisner with the disc, we're going to see Werfele go fake back and then accelerate up line in a small window there, but Eisner puts it in the space and Werfele makes the play.
Eisner joining that top trio with double-digit assists on the weekend. This is her 12th of the tournament. Junior from Pennsylvania makes it 3-1, and UBC takes a timeout. Great start for the ladies from Dartmouth.
We do have a timeout on the field.
They went 26-3 in the regular season. They won the Florida Winter Classic and the Stanford Invite. And yet at the Northwest Challenge, things did not go the way Dartmouth was hoping.
Some adverse conditions there at that tournament. A lot of wind, a lot of rain. Got the sense that they may have been opening up their lines a little bit more to give their depth some exposure and reps that they might not otherwise get in high-quality competition situations.
This was the March 24th, 25th weekend, 26th as well, three-day tournament. And during those 3 days, Dartmouth suffered losses to Pittsburgh, Michigan, and North Carolina, and wins over Washington, Carleton, and Colorado. As you get a look at the line, Verjus getting ready to pull.
The good news for British Columbia, if they're trying to spark some momentum here, is they've got a nice downwind O point. If they can find the right touch on their throws and not overthrow, they're going to put themselves in a good spot.
Verjus pull into the wind.
You see how strongly that's gusting if Verjus can only get the disc to midfield.
And a quick deep shot will sail too far.
We saw Morcilla take off as soon as the center handler picked the disc up, but again, just not the right amount of touch with that wind at her back.
It was a quick turnaround for both these teams. It always is, even if it's at the same complex, but the addition of the 20-minute commute from Mason to Franklin, new field conditions, new stadium, you're getting used to those wind tunnels. Will that disc float enough? No.
Just going back to Princess Layout on the Thunderbirds turn.
UBC's game against Texas, they won the game with their possession, their ability to move the disc quickly. One of the best women's games of pool play.
Yeah, Texas notorious for their much tighter roster.
Travel call.
And we'll see how many legs and how much energy they have left when they face off against Colorado Colley at 5:30 tonight.
That's the third semifinal of the day. If you're a fan of the zoo, it is a great early afternoon because you get Verjus and Zoo, and then you get Zoo Disc of UMass narrowly edging Pittsburgh. And how about that bid from Jacqueline?
Some incredible efforts to save possession, not necessarily gain a bunch of yardage, but preserve possession in these last two throws here.
And then UMass will face not the defending champs from Minnesota, but Grey Duck knocked off, surprisingly, after having a halftime lead, Carleton. Carleton cut against UMass in our second semi at about 2 o'clock Eastern. We're live all day on ESPN3. Tomorrow we will be live on ESPNU starting at 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. And the disc continues to pinball around.
I believe there might have been a stall called when the disc was in Eisner's hand. Victoria McCann thinks that she got to 10 before the disc was released. McCann going to the observer for a ruling. The observer rules that it was not a stall.
So when you're ready, you can check the disc in. It'll be coming in 1.
Still UBC disc.
And again, for those of you new to the sport or tuning in for the first time, players have 10 seconds as counted by their defender within 10 feet to release the disc. And if they get to 10 before the next pass is completed or the disc leaves their hand, it's called a stall and a turnover.
Up the line and out of the reach of Johnson. UBC scored the first point, but Dartmouth has scored 3 in a row. With the disc again, looking to continue the rally. It feels like every time Angela Zhu gets the disc, she takes a deep breath and then often looks for Verju. But once again, Verju denied on the deep shot. This time it was Caitlin Harper knocking it away.
And it was funny because you saw earlier in that point, this has been a long and grueling and demanding point thus far. You saw Verju just kind of kneeling with her hands on her legs at the back of the stack, not really showing any kind of legitimate cut to one direction or another.
That D from Harper, 26-year-old grad student from Oregon City. And UBC just unable to sustain possession. Zhu picks up in the red zone. Breaks the mark, but a stall, perhaps, before the release. Morcilla and Zhu converse.
So the observer not close enough to actually hear if Morcilla got 10 out of her mouth. So it will be a contested stall, and Zhu will have the disc on stall 8.
Tough low reaching grab. Eisner keeps it alive, back to Zhu. And I believe a pick is the reason why Lee became so free on the open side. When you call a pick, your defender has to be within 10 feet of the cutter.
Are you going to call your pick, or are you going to
Dartmouth began
No
their tournament with a win over Delaware, beat Notre Dame 2. They negate the pick, it's overruled, and they'll call it a goal for Caitlin Lee. Anticlimactic, and yet that's another break for Princess Leia.
And again, just strike cuts, open side cuts to the front cone. Nothing too fancy or complicated about this offense. Dartmouth's just executing the basics in the red zone here. Great fake there by Eisner. Getting Morcilla, the dump defender, to really commit to Zhu's fake into the backfield. opening up that upline cut and space.
Another goal for Caitlin Lee. And Angela Zhu, a finalist for the Callahan Award. A lot of conversation of whether it will be her or perhaps Stanford's Monisha White or Oregon's Haley Walrus. Those are 3 of the 5 finalists for the women's Callahan. That'll be announced during the first men's semifinal between UMass and Carleton.
British Columbia having to work upwind here to preserve this hold.
And we saw the tournament assist leaders on the screen with Han Chen of UCLA leading the way. We're not going to get to see Han and UCLA in the semifinals as UBC turns it over once again.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, what were your thoughts watching Han Chen? From my perspective, she was the most dominant, powerful thrower of the tournament in the women's division.
Couldn't agree with you more. Tremendous velocity, tremendous vision.
And how about this Dartmouth team? After losing yesterday to Oregon, Princess Layout undeterred. A hold and 4 straight breaks to take a 5-1 first half lead.
Again, nothing too complicated about that offense after the turnover. A swing just too high out of the reach of Ignatif. And Werfelli is just going to pick up the disc on the force sideline, and Curtis is going to make a cut to the force side cone and beat her mark.
Second goal for Curtis. Lee has also scored twice for Dartmouth. And if you're UBC, it can really feel like an avalanche falling on top of you in this situation.
This is very similar to the start of the Dartmouth-Stanford game in quarterfinals, where Dartmouth knocked off the top seed. They came out with a ton of energy. There may have been a few turnovers, a few long points, but Dartmouth was able to grit those points out and jump out to the large lead early in the first half.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think Dartmouth was even crisper in that game. The
Definitely.
Princess Layout team had maybe 3 or 4 turnovers in the entire first half. It was amazing how quickly they would capitalize. Because to be honest, I didn't feel like Stanford played that poorly. But just a few mistakes, and this Dartmouth team pounced immediately, and then they started to feel the pressure a little bit. Serena Tam, pestered by Hannah Marr on the mark. Pressure leads to another giveaway. Lee the D. Moyo Okaremi. Great underneath cut. Curtis coming to the disc.
Such an underrated throw there from Werfelli, all the way across the field, into the wind, but right in that perfect receiver box for Piper Curtis. But
there's Morcilla. She got Verju earlier. This time it was Lee on the under, but UBC has not made the recognition necessary on those downwind shots.
If I'm Candace Chan or Catherine Louis at halftime, that is one of the 2 or 3 adjustments that I am emphasizing in my huddle with my team.
You don't want to just punt and play D. That's obviously not the strategy, because Dartmouth has proven they can go 70 yards upwind. Werfelli might be almost as calm as Zhu with the disc, but a good coach from Oldershaw. sneaking away from her defender and into the open side lane. This feels like a must score for UBC.
With the wind at their backs, having gone down several breaks, I would agree.
That'll work. It's Harper in the end zone. Bookends for her. She had the D couple turnovers ago, and a hard-fought hold for British Columbia.
Great recognition there from Oldershaw, peeling off of her assignment, and then Oldershaw, perhaps one of the more experienced throwers on the field, able to put just the right amount of touch on that outside in flick so that it would sit on the wind in a place where Caitlin Harper could get to it. So the challenge here for British Columbia is, can they force the Dartmouth offense to go to a second or third look? Because the last few points we've seen Dartmouth get open strike cuts, 4 side unders to the goal cone. Can they perhaps push some receivers downfield and make them complete deeper passes than they'd like to?
UBC here at Nationals, 4-0 in Pool D, wins over UNC, Texas, UConn, and Cal. And then UVA in the quarterfinals, a game that UBC jumped on Hydra early, took a big lead, and then all of a sudden it was 14-13, game to 15, and UBC did ultimately close it out.
I think that was a great matchup of
looking long, Verju read it well. Another high stall count Huck in Verju's direction. And if you're UBC, I'm not sure how you defend that.
You know, the two comparisons that jump to my mind, in the men's club division, Bo Kittredge. In the women's club division, Sandy Jorgensen.
And Verju picks up her 3rd assist. That's the 2nd turnover-free hold in 2 0 points for Dartmouth.
And again, Zoo stuck in a high stall situation, just throwing up a deep shot. Verju making the play, using her size and ability to read the disc to best her defender. And you know, I'd be interested, Evan, to see a stat on how many discs Jacqueline Verju has caught within 3 yards of the end zone. Because there have been at least 2 or 3 this game where she's caught just shy of the goal line.
It's a big number. So Angela Zhu the score. And Dartmouth takes a timeout, leading 6-2. All tournament long, you've seen these strategic timeouts from the Dartmouth coaching staff. And obviously they're trying to buy rest for their top players. You get 2 timeouts a half. They called a timeout in a similar spot in the quarterfinal this morning. Usually you think it's the team trailing calls a timeout, but this is a strategic maneuver from Eugene Yum and Laura Bitterman. Bitterman, of course, a 2-time national champion with Boston Brute Squad.
Number of other women competing with Brute Squad this year. Angela Zhu, Caitlin Lee, a new addition to the roster. Juliana Werfele, who's won in the past as well. So Dartmouth is going to put a stacked line out there as the British Columbia offense is going to work downwind. And again, if these first few points have been any indication, Dartmouth should just force British Columbia's receivers deep. Don't let them catch anything underneath, because they haven't proven that they can put the right touch on their deep shots.
Jacqueline Verjus on the ball prevents her playout.
Verjus ready to launch. Believe it or not, she's just a sophomore. McCann under pressure to Al. Over Oldershaw and stolen away. May Hardebeck intercepts. Verjus. 2. The disc skills of those two together at a different level. And it's not just the disc skills, it's the field sense. It's the competitiveness. It is the composure.
You see Zoo looking for Verjus there for a split second.
Verjus coming back to the open side, and she set up that cut beautifully. I mean, you make the joke in basketball about breaking your defender's ankles, but Eleanor Young went down as Verjus faked to the break side, came back to the open side. Too easy for another Dartmouth break.
And here's the turnover. This swing pass going slightly upwind off the hands of Oldershaw. And then we see Zoo with a wide open Jacqueline Verjus, who had faked out her mark and gone to the front cone.
Verjus coming clear again. I gotta say, Dartmouth throughout the weekend has not always made it look this easy. I mean, it has been more of a challenge than it has been in this first half. So 7-2 Dartmouth leads. UBC scored the first point of the game, and Dartmouth scored 5 straight. Harper's goal made it 5-2, and now Dartmouth a break away from taking half. Juggled and caught by Morsilla.
Nice find by Janelle Siwa. She's been very aggressive with her break throws so far this game. Completion percentage not that high, but she's not afraid to take those challenging shots.
UBC's worked it about 2/3 of the way up the field into the win. Harper to Zhang. UBC in the red zone. Dartmouth's D has got plenty of rest. They're tight downfield, but finally an opening. Upwind for the hold. Morsilla with her first goal of the game. That's the first turnover 3-point for the Thunderbirds.
And a great Z cut there in the handler set by Julia Zhang. Hard to believe that that's the first time Morsilla's shown up on the stat sheet. She's been all over the field earning some blocks and working hard downfield on both sides of the disc.
You see the discipline downfield. Oldershaw didn't move, just allowing her teammates to take cutting lanes. And eventually Zhang to Morsilla.
And that's a credit to the coaching and discipline instilled by Chan and Hui. There's no doubt that each of these teams have multiple sets, multiple end zone looks that they like to go through, but great discipline there on that set.
Zhang and Morcilla, 2 of the 5 players on this UBC team that are currently on the 2017 Vancouver Traffic Women's Club roster. Also Tam, Oh-Young, and McCann. In the women's division, the past couple of years there have been a clear top 4 with Boston, Seattle, San Francisco, and Denver Molly Brown, and Vancouver Traffic has been lingering on the outskirts. Challenging those top 4 teams.
Another great female talent associated with that traffic program and the British Columbia Thunderbirds program, Catherine Hui, who is on the 20-person roster to represent Team Canada at the World Games in Wrocław, Poland later this summer.
Zhu, too far this time for Verju.
To it. 10 seconds.
Oldershaw taking her time, bringing that disc up to the cone.
She's got 20 seconds technically. Muir underneath for Sue. Oh-Young chased by Zanitas. Johnson. Further up the line, Harper. This would be a huge momentum boost for UBC. Nope. Just a little out of sync with most of their throws. Forehands, backhands, whatever it's been.
For all of her impact downfield away from the disc, it looks as though Morcilla just might be a bit nervous when she's got the disc in her hands.
Hopefully gets the reset for Eisner. Dartmouth trying to take half out of the reach of the bidding Werfele. Oh-Young coming back to the disc. Oldershaw, tough grab. Quick swing to space. Harper. Oldershaw. Stall count rising, and Oldershaw finds an opening. Although the observers are signaling goal, Oldershaw's not celebrating quite yet.
I believe there might have been a stall call.
We have a stall call.
She said 10 and then you threw it. Let's find it. I'm just going to contest it. Yeah.
Okay, so contested stall?
Yeah.
It's coming back?
Contested stall.
Got it.
Oldershaw's disc
So it's coming in on
at
8.
stall 8 on the goal line.
I was not close
I
enough
wish
to
we knew
hear
what the
last
observers
3
thought.
stalls, so I'm going to leave it as a contested stall.
If I had to,
Thank you.
If I had to guess what Kate Monforti saw or heard, it was that she wasn't quite close enough to actually hear the stall count and determine whether or not the disc was out of Oldershaw's hands.
Through the grasp of Harper.
British Columbia has had no shortage of opportunities.
That's for sure. And Eisner unable to control
the Princess layout turnover.
5th turnover of the point.
That's a great matchup at the front of the stack there. Verju and Morsilla, arguably the 2 best athletes on the field.
Morsilla cleared and Verju was just hanging out, clogging that open side lane. Breaking the mark. That'll work. That's the first break of the game for the Thunderbirds. And it's 7-4. So some positive energy from UBC after a long grind.
Naomi Johnson may have been looking for Ellen Oyoung on that initial release, but great work by Paige Muir to follow the throw and clean up the trash, so to speak. That's an occurrence that's going to happen on a breezy day like today.
Smart recognition, too, from UBC. The break side was where to go, with Verju just hanging out on the open side of the stack. Naomi Johnson with her first assist.
Talking to Candace Chan and Catherine Hui before the game, Naomi Johnson was one of the defenders that they expected to match up with Jacqueline Verju a fair bit. We've seen a lot more of Caitlin Harper and Naomi Morsilla, and even Ellen Oyoung for a point or two. But Johnson's size, she's listed at 5'11", does match up well with Verju.
Verju listed at 6'1", among the tallest females in this women's division. Zhu launching. Verju, the target. Out of bounds.
One of the few misfires from Zhu we've seen so far in this first half. I think that's a goal and no wind, the way she released it. I think the amount of edge that she put on it and the amount of torque that she put on it with the wind at its back kind of forced the disc out the back of the end zone.
So British Columbia could really change the complexion with an upwind score here. We talked at the outset, Ian. UBC definitely has the check mark in the depth discussion.
Absolutely.
So as this game wears along, you think UBC might gain an edge. Not the intended target, but Zhang keeps it alive. To Tam. Through the grasp of Siwa. And McCann could not keep it alive.
Injury.
Black sub.
Denise Sue going off the field. We hope that's nothing more than a cramp. She was wobbling for a second.
Good look at a very serious Tom Manowitz there, the leader of USA Ultimate's college division, running the tournament, running the division, doing yeoman's work.
And there's Sue avoiding contact with her own teammate. And
she got back up, but looked to be hobbling.
So Dartmouth turns the disc over there. And again, another great break from Janelle Siwa. She's got some nice inside-out flick breaks, and we've even seen her attempt some nice outside-in backhands as well.
Serena Tam looks pretty comfortable with a disc in her hands.
And that's confident even going upwind, but a little too ambitious there from Janelle Siwa.
All of a sudden, Dartmouth struggling to complete a pass.
And this is turning into one of those field position points where you're really gaining yardage depending on where you turn the disc over.
Just like that, British Columbia has scored 3 straight. Thunderbirds back in it.
So even though Zhang might have been the intended receiver, Aster Au able to stay with the disc and follow the play as the disc tailed to the break side. Werfele was there, unable to make the play.
Carmen Leung in the end zone, wide open.
That's once or twice now. That's twice now we've seen the British Columbia receivers following the discs as they trail off to the break side past their intended target.
So you look back at the timeout that Dartmouth took at 6-2. Princess Leia was up by 4 with all the momentum, called timeout. Now they've called their second timeout. Very different tone and tenor, you'd imagine, to this conversation than the one before.
Instead of trying to break the opposing offense and have a commanding lead inching closer to halftime, now their own offense has to persevere and execute going upwind, which we've seen them do earlier in this half, but they seem to have been plagued by some throwing execution errors in the last few points.
Verju very involved, but Dartmouth is a team struggling to string passes together these last few points. Oldershaw preparing to pull. There's Catherine Huey. Really good, versatile, all-around player for Team Canada. UBC was in the semifinals here 2 years ago.
Candace Chan, the other coach, a member of the 2008 National Championship team as well.
Yep.
Back in Boulder.
That's UBC's only title. Dartmouth in the semis for the first time. While it's a new experience for the program, I don't think too many in the ultimate world are surprised with the amount of talent that have chosen to go to this Ivy League school in recent years, but that out of the reach of Verju. Could British Columbia take this all the way to half? Is that too crazy? To make it 7-6. Not that time.
I don't think it's too crazy, but again, something we hadn't seen in the last few points. We need to see that touch on those mid-range to longer downwind deep shots. Great defense there from Harper, staying just underneath Verju, preventing her from going underneath.
Werfele had nowhere to go, and then the position from Curtis was not enough.
Great work by Morsilla, going up and impacting the disc first before she made contact with Werfele.
McCann looking back to Oldershaw. Good effort, but not quite there.
And every coach who sees that one is going to think back to the classic dump swing end zone drill as an alternative, with Zhu saving possession there.
Curtis free in the under. Verju. Seventh turnover of the point.
Turnover. Oldershot a hiccup for Beavers.
Can't ignore the fact that Dartmouth has 10 rookies on their team this year. Not a ton of veteran experience and no college semifinal experience. And UBC, so close, yet so far.
And Yo sizing up her options. McCann was open, but just a little too hot and too far inside on the release. And a good job by the Thunderbird defenders here, for the most part, staying under the Dartmouth receivers.
Zoo with really nowhere to go, and it soars over Curtis's head. Piper Curtis, one of the rookies on this team, but she played 4 years of varsity soccer at Dartmouth before playing Ultimate.
And to the newer fan here who may be seeing these midfield turnovers, in a windy game like this, field position is so valuable.
Over the top, yes! Caitlin Harper brings UBC within one. The longest point of the half gives us our closest score of the half.
As we see Zoo with the stall count rising, rather than turning the disc over near her goal line and giving her opponents a shorter field to work against, punts it as far as she can. And then some great touch here on this shot from McCann into the end zone from Harper, reading the wind well, putting the right edge on the disc. This is what we were missing the first few points, but what they've been able to dial in as the half has progressed.
Harper will stay out there. McCann gets a breather. UBC's downfield defense has really ratcheted up during this run, which is now 4-zip.
And I'd love to think that that's something that Candace Chan and Catherine Hui harped on in a few of their timeout huddles. They've been doing a much better job protecting the force side and forcing receivers further downfield and not letting them catch easy underneath passes.
Zoo to Curtis. Verju is already in the end zone, waiting for the junk. Put up line for Zoo. Cross field to the break side. Jacqueline Verju. No! Foul called on the play.
And it looks like Verju's calling a foul, saying that Harper contacted her body. She's going to the observer, and the observer upholds the foul on Harper. There was contact as Verju was touching the disc. So we see this outside in backhand. Verju's gonna go up. Oh yes, and a lot of contact on the face and shoulder. Nothing malicious from Harper. She was reaching for the disc, but it definitely impeded Verju's ability to make a play on the disc.
Verju, lefty, end zone. Dartmouth takes half. Third goal for Lee. Fourth assist for Verju. And Dartmouth does take it to half. However, a much closer game than it once was, because this Princess Layout squad led 7-2 before British Columbia strung together 4 straight to make this a much tighter game. Verju with a cheeky over-the-top lefty throw to take it to half for Dartmouth.
Those offhand throws becoming more and more popular these days, and particularly effective for Verju, who has such a size advantage over her marks.
British Columbia back in this game, and Candace Chan, the coach of UBC, joins us down to the field. Coach, we appreciate you joining us.
No problem.
What did it take for you guys to rally back in that first half?
Hey, I just told them you got nothing to lose. So there's no regrets, we just gotta fight. So they are doing their job, they're fighting hard, we're coming back to this game. And our rookie Kaylin is playing awesome. So, you know, team is actually looking up to her, and you know what? The Birds want it, they want it.
Any memories from the 2008 championship run coming back into your head here?
Totally, yeah, I don't know. Like, I definitely miss the college scene. I really want to take these Birds to the final. So that's what I've been telling them. I actually showed them the highlight reel of our 2008 win, and, you know, got them fired up, got them pumped up. We got this game.
Coach,
so,
last thing.
Yep.
They obviously have a bunch of great players, Verju and Zhu among them. What was the strategy coming into the game, and do you make any adjustments at halftime?
Not like to our basic and system, but we got like, you know, specific matchup, obviously getting a taller person on her and, you know, shutting down their kind of like handle reset. So there's specific personnel matchup, but nothing big change in terms of our fundamental and basically playing open side under defense.
Coach Candace Chan, enjoy it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much.
The head coach of the British Columbia Thunderbirds, she knows what it's like to win in the semis and go all the way at college nationals. Dartmouth 8, UBC 6 at the half in the first women's semi here at Nationals. 8-6 is your halftime score. Dartmouth leading British Columbia. Second game of the day for both these teams, each a quarterfinal winner early this morning, and now bidding for a spot in Memorial Day Monday's championship round at Nationals. Ian Toner will look at these first half stats. It was all Dartmouth early.
There's no question that Angela Zhu and Jacqueline Verju were clicking right off the bat, supported by their great supporting cast, Juliana Werfele, Piper Curtis, and others. Dartmouth was really in the driver's seat, jumping out to a 6-2 lead, calling a timeout, trying to stack their lines. We saw a number of impressive grabs by Verju, reading the wind and the trajectory of the disc, getting on the stat sheet with both goals and assists. Angela Zhu, the Callahan nominee for Dartmouth Princess Layout, maintaining her composure for the better part of this first half. And then British Columbia started a run. They were down 6-2. They had a nice upwind offensive hold with no turns. And the rest of their role players got involved and made huge contributions. Caitlin Harper notching blocks. Naomi Morsiluk notching blocks and getting the disc back. And great persistence to stay with discs that may not have been on target to their intended receivers, cleaning up the trash, so to speak. And though they weren't able to tie it up, they're back within 2 heading into the second half.
Showing off the depth in the waning stretches of the first half. And you wonder how much Dartmouth will have left in the tank. Do they have enough to get the full day of rest? They'd have a full 24 hours, maybe about 25 hours, if they could hang on for the win before the championship game tomorrow. But lots of work to do for this Dartmouth team that's bidding for its first ever women's title. Texas and Columbia is the other semifinal. Neither of those schools who ever won a title either. UBC trying to win for the second time in school history. Back at Nationals, 8-6, Dartmouth leads UBC at the half. We're joined by Dartmouth coach Eugene Yum. And coach, an exciting, first of all, nice shirt. An exciting first half. You guys got off to a great start. What went well for you in those first 9 points?
Capitalizing on their turnovers and, trying to work our system, using everyone else on the field.
What was the message to the team in the halftime huddle?
We need to trust each other. We started playing what we call hero ball and trying to just work it, with 1 or 2 throws. And we're losing trust within our teammates, losing trust within our system. So just get back to basics.
You guys have experienced some adversity this year, obviously lots of new faces in the team. How did you feel the girls responded after the loss to Oregon yesterday?
It was great. It seemed like it was just totally new day, new game, and just came back and, kind of rallied through it. It was kind of like an after image, which was a good thing to have.
And whose shirt does that really belong to?
Oh, it's mine. My other coach, Laura Bitterman, bought a Dartmouth dad shirt, so I said, should I buy a Dartmouth mom shirt? She said, yep.
That's fantastic. Coach, best of luck in the second half. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That's Eugene Yum. Dartmouth Princess layout, leading by 2 and receiving the disc. A look at the first half scoring summary. Jacqueline Verjus involved in 5 of Dartmouth's 8 goals. Harper scoring a pair for British Columbia as the Thunderbirds ready to pull to start the second half. Just 15 minutes away from the soft cap. Once the soft cap goes off, you'll add 2 to the higher team score, and we'll play to that number. There is no hard cap in the semis and the finals, and right off the bat, Piper Curtis on her horse. Incomplete.
Looks like a foul on the throw. Verjus is claiming that Harper made contact with her before she released the disc.
No.
And I don't know that there was contact with her throwing arm, but there might have been contact with her non-throwing shoulder and left half of Verjus' body.
Injury as Werfele may have caught her mark's jaw with the release. That's Tam who's shaken up.
And I think it might have been just before that replay started. Not sure if as Werfele was pivoting, there was an elbow to the face by accident. It happens a lot. Oh yeah, there it was. Just a shoulder or elbow to her nose as she was trying to pivot from her forehand to her backhand.
That stings. The door opens again for UBC. Quick launch. See was flick. Run down. Oh, Young, not enough float to the end zone, looking for Julia Zhang. That's a missed opportunity right there.
One of those old ultimate adages, conservation of greatness. After you make one impressive play, take a deep breath before you move on to the next one. Regain your composure.
Verjus. 2 players going deep. Finally, the throw goes up. It's Lee. Looking cross field again. Verjus got it. They called a stall on the mark. If it's overruled, it'll be Verjus' second goal. It's been overruled. Verjus has the score for the Dartmouth Princess layout.
And here's the first mid-range shot from Siwa to Oh Young, and she just can't keep that backhand up enough for Zhang to get there, and then Verju chasing down this break side shot, you know, even earlier in that point. There was a bailout throw to Verju at midfield. Harper was right there, and Verju able to make the play under pressure, and now a phenomenal layout grab on the break side. I mean, if you're UBC, yes, you missed a tremendous opportunity there, but defensively, there's not much more that you can ask for.
If you follow Ultimate, you've heard about Verju for a while as Lee picked up her first assist. I think I first saw Jacqueline play at the US Open a couple years ago and first realized how respected she was by her teammates when she was playing universe point in elimination games for a world championship team, Seattle Ryan.
I think the sky's the limit for Jacqueline. She's already had a wealth of experience that players her age would kill for. She's multiple college seasons and club seasons ahead of her.
Been on Riot the last 2 years. I know that Andy Lovesith and Gwen Ambler have said they probably could have taken her on the team when she was 17, but they chose to wait one more year. That shot just out of the reach of Judith Yo.
Another one of those downwind shots with too much on them, carrying beyond the receiver's reach.
Less than 10 minutes away from the soft cap now. Dartmouth by 3 with possession. Later today, Texas and Colorado, a South Central showdown in the second women's semi. The 4 overall seed and the 8th overall seed, Texas and Colorado, and that was a fastball from short range.
And I think Ella Zanitas was worried about getting stalled and just wanted to get the disc out of her hand, and that's why she threw it so quickly.
Through the contact, foul was called, and now it's retracted. Certainly looked like there was some contact, but Dartmouth will take over. Check it out.
Yeah,
Was she in a legal guarding position? If she was, and Yo the thrower initiated, it's a fair no call.
and a tremendous block there by McCann, who missed that earlier end zone shot.
Yo picks up again. Low flick, finds the target, and Werfele colliding with Morcilla. She's good.
Are you going to stay in or are you going to sub? Okay, no sub.
And again, the reason Morcilla has the option here is because the contact was initiated by a defender. If she had gone down and called injury with no contact from a defender, she would have to leave the game.
Yo with a foot on the goal line. Able to connect with McCann.
Bookends from Victoria McCann, heads up defense in the lane, laying out and forcing a first throw turnover. And then a nice shimmy at the front of the stack there. That inside shot becoming so popular in teams that utilize the vertical stack offense. So tough to defend and such tight windows. And just like that, British Columbia back within 2 again.
One of my favorite aspects of college nationals, the fans the sidelines, the parents, the passion of some of the parents of these men and women at this tournament. The word unbelievable gets thrown around and it becomes cliche. It is truly unbelievable, some of the things you see the parents do and say.
And it's interesting to see this whole crowd composed mostly of American teams right now, and American parents and friends and supporters rooting for the Canadian underdog to pull off the upset against the heavy Dartmouth favorite.
They're just rooting for a close game down the stretch. Universe point.
That too.
I was thinking about this yesterday as we begin a new season, a new deal, USA Ultimate on ESPN. That'll continue through the US Open and the Pro Championships in the club season, along with Club Nationals heading back to Sarasota in October. We were so fortunate last year. When you think back to the quality of games we saw, looking for Lee, Verju dials deep. Incredible precision from the sophomore Verju. And another score for Lee, it's 10-7.
And it's almost like that was a pull play or a string that was called before the offensive point started for Dartmouth. Center to Angela Zhu. Jacqueline Verju's going to get the first under in the lane. And then Caitlin Lee is going to be the next option. And great touch there. We've seen so many throwers miss long or out that flick sideline so far in this game, but Verju puts that exactly where Lee needs it.
Really high-level toss from Jacqueline. Lee has been one of the primary targets. Verju still out there on the line, directing traffic. He's been involved in 7 of the 10 scores. Dare you call the performance Stubbsy?
I think that term was trademarked, and you're going to have to pay that family royalties after last year.
Just 4 minutes away from the soft cap.
And an interesting zone look here from Dartmouth and an unforced turnover there from British Columbia, just moving a little too quickly.
And that disc hit the ground. There was some contact, but no call. A sizzling flick from Zhu that Lee could not handle. Swinging the disc over the head of the first target. Excellent defense by Ritterban, the freshman, cleaning up the trash. Zhu, laser, sideline, in! Worthily did it! What a catch!
Incredible recognition there by Angela Zhu. She noticed that Victoria McCann was face guarding and wasn't looking back at the disc. So you're going to see 47 in white still in the lane technically, but she keeps her eyes on Worthily, and Zhu is able to exploit that. And again, 2 just unforced turnovers here.
Not much of a window, but she drilled it.
I liken that to a back shoulder throw in football, with the quarterback looking to that receiver's back shoulder in the front corner of the end zone.
Throwing it where only your receiver can catch it or it's going out of bounds.
And it's so tough for that defender because they've got to stay engaged with the receiver. Not a lot of time or opportunity for them to check back in with the thrower. An example of Angela Zhu's next level vision in the college division.
They kept the zone on. It led to another turnover. Curtis ripped it down.
And that's 3 unforced turnovers. You know, those are just execution errors that the British Columbia throwers missed open receivers.
Curtis in the under. No Zoo or Verju on the field this point for Dartmouth. Werfele will try to pilot Princess Leia out into the end zone. And 2 Thunderbirds colliding.
What an afternoon for Naomi Morsilla. She's been throwing her body around and involved in several collisions.
Hey kids, it stays there.
As Caitlin Lee took her cut across the front of the stack. Judith Yo wasn't quite able to follow her, and she'll set the mark as the disc is tapped back in.
Open side out of the reach of Curtis. Clock just expired. Soft cap will go on after this point concludes.
Nice work by Oldershaw to move the mark and get that throw off, but great recognition there by Caitlin Lee to get the disc back for Princess Leia.
Curtis could not hang on. You got to give McCann credit. She may not have gotten the disc, but the bid was still right there. Think she got a piece of it?
I don't think McCann touched the disc at all. Let's take a look at this angle from the front. I think it made it through to Piper Curtis's arms, and to put it simply, I think she doinked it. There's no doubt that she had some pressure.
Disc stays with Dartmouth though. Looking for Lee. Too far.
It's a Dartmouth turnover. Janelle Kuhn back to pick up for UBC.
Here's a critical point here for UBC. Obviously, they were within 2 at 9-7. Dartmouth has scored back-to-back goals. Pretty impressed, Ian, by the crowd getting over from one field complex to the stadium site so quickly for this first women's semifinal. Curtis D's up another one. Native of Andover, Massachusetts. Curtis, soccer player, also on the Nordic ski team, as well as playing some ultimate in high school.
More great recognition in the lane there by Victoria McCann. The upline shot too far for Werfele, and McCann able to earn the block.
Can UBC grind it through this zone defense, the full 70? Oldershaw swings it to Siwa. Up the line, some key yards to Harper. Yo. Crowd wanted her to launch. She should have in retrospect.
Curtis had an open look down the break side there, but perhaps not as confident taking those deep looks. And again, thinking back to Coach Eugene Yum's words at halftime, this team, he mentioned, needed to trust each other more and not look for the hero one throw end to the point, but find those continuations and find those teammates on the reliable underneath passes.
Now, did Eisner have this? Or was she juggling it and then it got taken away by Zhang?
Goes back.
So the observer did not have a clean view, so it's going to be a contested foul going back to the original thrower.
Dartmouth up by 5. Lee again for Princess Leia to make it 12-7.
How many goals has Caitlin Lee caught in that force side corner, right by that force side cone? As we look back at the original turnover, Yo not quite on the same page as Oldershaw. And then Caitlin Lee in the red zone just striking to that front side cone.
UBC's had a tough time guarding Caitlin Lee. Sophomore from Denver, Colorado, 19 years old. And you can get lulled to sleep talking about Zhu and Verju and Werfeli and how good Curtis has been. And Lee has been a killer.
5th goal of the game for Lee. And she's got a bright future ahead of her as well, having just made the Boston Brute Squad roster. We'll be interested to see what kind of impact she can have as Brute Squad competes at a number of the Triple Crown Tour events this summer.
There have been some changes on that roster, perhaps most notably Leela Tennell departing. Laura Bitterman not expected to play this year either. But they're still really, really good, going for the three-peat in the club division. Ariel Jackson, Mike Zalisk back coaching Boston Brute Squad once again. Well, Club Nationals last year, Ian, we saw the Boston three-party, Slow White, Ironside, and Brute Squad. And while Dartmouth is not Boston, they are New England. There's certainly a Boston flavor.
True.
We're going to see UMass coming up in the first men's semifinal after this game concludes.
You saw the British Columbia handler motioning to her teammates to come underneath because they were stretched so far deep against this tightly packed Dartmouth zone. And they're starting to find the holes now as they work it down the field.
It's been a while since UBC scored. Dartmouth on a 3-0 run, and Zhu comes up with a pick. Zhu needs a reset, finds Werfeli. Through the grasp of Cologne. Serena Tam takes a tumble, pops right back up, is ready to go.
Everything okay? I thought I heard a foul call, or are you just stopping? mean, you guys have to make that decision. I can't make that for you. Okay, so foul, no contest. It's going to be coming in on 1.
So UBC has possession. Thunderbirds are going to need to score 7 of the next 8 points to win. It's a game to 14. Break in the zone with a good backhand, slicing through to Lowe. Denise Sue. Low grass burner, caught by Oh Young. Muir. The zone defense has certainly changed the pace of the game and has gotten Dartmouth some turnovers, but UBC works it through the Dartmouth Z this time. And it's 12-8, game to 14 in the first women's semi.
Great patience there after the Thunderbirds were able to get the disc back and find the holes in the zone.
Fans here singing the Canadian national anthem in the stands.
Like you said, they're rooting for a good game. They want the comeback to bring us down to the wire.
UBC, one of the few schools that had both men's and women's programs competing at college nationals this year. And the UBC women into the semis for the second time in the last 3 seasons.
Dartmouth is going to receive, going downwind once again, 2 points away from victory. Oldershaw's pull's gonna land just shy of midfield.
Dartmouth with Zhu, Verju, and Werfeli all out there. Verju coming under. Curtis and Lee both downfield.
Verju drawing Naomi Johnson as her defender on this point.
How about that? Lee hauls in the lefty backhand. Back to Zhu. Curtis, open side, yes.
Great spacing and discipline by the Dartmouth offense there. They stayed in that spread set, even though they were only a few yards outside the end zone, but able to keep enough space open for Piper Curtis to make a simple cut to the fore side cone. You saw that start all the way over on the break side.
Another assist for Zhu, considering that she was 3rd in the tournament in assists coming into this game, and neither number 1 or number 2 in the women's division in the assist column are in the semis. Angela Zhu moving into the top spot with her semifinal performance.
You see her imploring her team to end this game right now, just 1 point away from victory and moving on to the first national championship appearance in Princess Layout program history.
Well, it was a similar score yesterday, I believe, in one of the crazy comebacks of the tournament, Virginia and Michigan, right?
That was Virginia Hydra's final pool play game. I believe they were down 12-7. Virginia battled back, tied the game at 12. And the horn went off during that 25th point of the game, making it double game point.
Yeah, they started the point thinking it was to 14, and then in the middle of the point, the horn went off, meaning that the game would be ending on that one, and added a whole new layer of pressure, and that was one of the topsy-turvy universe points of the tournament.
Virginia able to pull that one out. Not for Michigan's lack of trying. Flywheel had several chances with the disc. And now we're going to see the Thunderbirds offense, starting with the disc going downwind, down by 5.
Low throw, dug out by Siwa. Estorao. Junkie defense, making things tough on UBC. You can credit Abby Ritterband with another D, just hanging out on the wing.
But again, another execution error against this zone. You know, receiver got a hand on it. And Dartmouth's just 7 yards away from the game-winning score.
Eisner. Werfele. Stall count rising.
Great mark there from Harper.
Werfele break side, no. Curtis could not get there.
You saw Werfele look for the high release backhand there for Eisner, high in the stall count, but Harper's hand was there. And then she's forced to release this really difficult inside shot at a high velocity.
She was closer than I thought she was watching it live.
We've got to learn not to underestimate the speed of Piper Curtis, and another execution error and unforced drop on their own goal line.
Those types of mistakes that have really cost UBC a chance to battle down the stretch in this game. Unfortunate, frustrating.
Consistency is key if you want to be a champion.
Werfele throws it up, and that will work. Somehow, some way, this Dartmouth team on its way to Championship Monday for the first time in school history. 14-8. Dartmouth over British Columbia. Not sure who this was intended to, but as long as a black jersey makes the catch, it really doesn't matter.
You saw the relief there from Werfele. As soon as Zanitas made the catch. Like you said, Evan, not her intended receiver, but that will win it for Princess Leia.
Zanitas, the game clincher. 14-8 is the final. We'll chat with the members of Dartmouth Princess Leia when we return. The USA Ultimate College Championships are brought to you in part by Discraft Ultrastar. Find the official disc of USA Ultimate at more than 1,900 US retail locations. And by 5 Ultimate, apparel made specifically for Ultimate players by Ultimate players. Visit 5ultimate.com for everything from jerseys and shorts to custom team uniforms. Dartmouth Princess Leia on its way to the title game. 14-8 over British Columbia. The Discraft play, or in this case, plays of the game, brought to you by Jacqueline Verjou. Number 22, just a sophomore, got the game started with that tremendous bid.
Impossible for us to settle on just one grab. She was there to bail out her team. Had some great chemistry with Angela Zhu, as she's had all year long. Possession-saving grabs and goals for layout.
Jacqueline standing by. We'll chat with her in a minute. But first, Laura Bitterman, the Dartmouth dad, coaching this Dartmouth team. You guys are the number 2 seed coming into the tournament. You're headed to the finals. Is this exactly where you expected to be midday on Sunday?
I don't think we expected, but we worked really hard for this, and we focused more on the actions and point by point and less on the outcome. And we trust in our system that if we execute well, then we will end up here.
Does Jacqueline have a ceiling in your mind? Is there anything she won't be able to accomplish on the field?
I mean, Jacqueline's amazing, and I think one thing that gets overlooked a lot is she's got such impressive field vision. I mean, she has these incredible layouts, but her field vision, I mean, she passes so well and makes her teammates look really good.
And Laura, there's so much talk about Zoo and Verju and Werfeli, and understandably so, but Caitlin Lee scored a lot of goals for you. Piper Curtis has been getting open. How has this supporting cast meshed with the 3 standout stars?
So I think it's huge. I think that's been one of our Achilles heels, and I think it's one thing we've been working on a lot is to work on getting a deeper team. Yes, Jacqueline, Ange, they're incredible, but without the cutting of people like Ella and May, Semi, we have so many people that help with those unders to make everything flow.
Well, Laura, after 2 games in about 5-6 hours, you get about 25 hours before you tee it up tomorrow. So good luck getting ready. Congrats on the win today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That's Laura Bitterman. She knows the championship feeling from the club division, trying to lead Dartmouth here in the women's college division. 14-8 over British Columbia, and Jacqueline Verju approaching the headset. The sophomore standout from Seattle joins us now. Jacqueline, congratulations on the win. What was the mindset coming into this game with such a quick turnaround after the win against Stanford, which obviously was an emotional win too?
Totally. I think that we're just trying to keep building all weekend. We dropped a game to Oregon, and I think since then we've known that every single point we're going to have to take it from the other team. Right? They're not going to give it to us. And so I think that playing Stanford, they're a great team, and they did not give it to us. And so I think that set us up really well to come into UBC and know we had to take it.
Having dropped that game against Oregon kind of forced you guys into a tougher, longer road than maybe you expected.
Yeah.
How are you feeling physically and mentally having that extra game and that tougher matchup earlier in the bracket?
I'm having so much fun. That's how I'm feeling physically and mentally. This is such a gift. I missed a lot of my college season last year due to injury, so I was really happy I was able to prepare physically how I wanted to. And just every time I get to step out on the field with my teammates, it feels like such a gift.
Jacqueline, you got about 25 hours before the opening pull tomorrow. It'll be either Colorado or Texas. What are your thoughts on those 2 teams?
I think they're both great teams. We've seen them both once each this year. They both have really big, deep games, which is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of running and gunning. But I think that if we can just keep our mentality that we have to play one point at a time and take everything, I feel just happy to be able to play again with this team.
We hear you. Jacqueline, we look forward to watching you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Jacqueline Verju, a big game in the semifinals to lead Princess Layout to Memorial Day Monday. It'll be either Colorado or Texas. In about 4 hours from now, we'll find out which one of those South Central teams will face Dartmouth tomorrow on ESPNU. But for now, we say so long for Ian Toner. Evan Lepler signing off for now from Bishop Fenwick High School in Franklin, Ohio, with the final score, Dartmouth 14, UBC 12. Carleton and UMass coming up at 2 o'clock. That's less than 30 minutes from now. All games airing on the ESPN network, streaming live on the ESPN app. You can watch the entire game on replay on the entire family of networks. Watch ESPN.com. We'll talk to you soon, everybody.